In this segment, we will cover a movie or show that was a hard swing and a miss. And this month's culprit is the Batman. Oh, buckle up, folks. Good thing we still have spoiler alert here because, guys, it's gonna be, spoiler alert. We're gonna be spoiling the fuck out of this. So just heads up if you haven't seen the movie. This is a spoiler-full review for this movie. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the good. If we're gonna have kind of a negative-ish review, let's start with the good first. So the opening scene was actually a very good fucking start. I was very impressed with how they executed the opening scene. Basically, it opens up on Gotham, aerial views of Gotham, and we're zooming in on different crimes that are occurring, right? And all the while, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, is narrating. He's doing a monologue, and honestly, I didn't even remember the damn words in the monologue. It was just something dark and gloomy. Who the fuck cares? The point is, the thing they're trying to get across is Batman is this known force of darkness that is coming for people that do bad things, and each of these crimes that are about to happen, each of the criminals look up into the sky and they see the bat signal. This guy specifically looks up and sees it, and then he very slowly looks down and stares into a dark shadow, expecting to see Batman. And the acting was so well done. You don't even see this guy's face. He's wearing a mask, but he sells the shit out of it that he is scared for his fucking life right now. I thought the opening scene was extremely well done. And it wasn't even because of like the lead characters, it's because the background characters, they just really sold the fuck out of this. Jeffrey Wright's Gordon. I thought that Jeffrey Wright was one of the few bright stars of this movie. He was really committed to this role. He's one of the few roles in the movie that I felt actually had a real arc, some real like growth from the start. At the beginning, we see him as kind of like an idealistic cop. He's a cop that really trusts Batman's ability to be a detective. He brings him in on crime scenes. He really trusts his colleagues, like his other fellow cops, like that we're all trying to do the right thing. But as this conspiracy unfolds and he starts revealing that his colleagues are actually dirty, they're all dirty cops and dirty politicians and dirty public figures, his demeanor really starts to change throughout the film. He starts becoming more desperate. He doesn't trust anybody now. He only trusts Batman. He's just trying to be a good cop, but he's trying to uncover this conspiracy for the safety of the people, and he doesn't know who to trust anymore. And I really, really liked his portrayal of this. This was one of the few shining stars of the film. Zoe Kravitz is Selina Kyle. Honestly, cards on the table, this character in the film was extremely poorly written. But Zoe Kravitz really made up for a lot of that slack. And there was a lot of slack, ladies and gents. Like, my God. The biggest thing about her, if you've ever seen other portrayals of Catwoman, you'll know that she's a very sexualized character. It's like a part of being Catwoman to be sexy, and honestly, overly sexy. Like, think of the other people that have portrayed her: Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway, Halle Berry, even her portrayal in the Arkham video games. Like, she's always very Batman, like very cartoony, sexualized. Zoe Kravitz's sexiness in this is so natural. It's so natural coming from her. She's just naturally sexy, she really brought a new, I guess, vibe for Catwoman that we really haven't seen before. It was very effortless coming from her. And she really sold this love interest with Batman, I think, a lot more than Robert Pattinson did. I think that between their dynamic, I think she gave more. I don't think he gave enough. And quite frankly, her performance is the only reason why this character specifically isn't in the bad section that's going to come next, because they really fucked this character. Like, they pretty much reduced Selina Kyle as a bastard daughter of a mob boss that has daddy issues. Like, that's pretty much how that's what they made the character into. And I think Zoe Kravitz did a really good job of uplifting that more, to give that a little bit more depth, because the writing did not do her any favors. So kudos to Zoe Kravitz. And then finally, Colin Farrell's Penguin. He was an unexpected shining star of the film too. I really wish he was in it more. He was kind of a bit character. We only saw him a handful of times. You honestly forget that that's Colin Farrell. That's like some Irish dude. Like, you forget it's him. He really committed to this character. And it was a really smart move on his part and the direction. I have a lot of negative shit to say about the direction in this movie, but the direction for him was a very solid move because they very deliberately chose not to go the cartoony route like they did the last time we saw the Penguin on the silver screen was with Danny DeVito's Penguin in the 1989 Batman. And he was a cartoon. They actually like made him like a human guy that looked like a penguin. And, you know, that worked for it because that's the vibe they were going for. But kind of grounding the character more into a real guy, like, really was an unexpected change, and it worked, and he killed it. I really just wish that they would have had him in the movie more. Let's move on to the bad guys. Buckle up. The Riddler. Oh, where to begin? For one, they were trying way too hard to make this villain like ultra edgy with the violence. Like, I get it. That's where they were going for the darker route here. I fucking get it. But I mean, they were trying way fucking too hard with this shit, making him like super just edgy. Like, that's like a note for the whole film. It's just like, it felt like, I'm really convinced that Matt Reeves, the director of this film, every time any of the actors, because these are great actors, I know that these are great actors, I'm pretty sure that they approached it in the way that they thought was right. But Matt Reeves, every time they would cut the scene, Matt would be like, we need it to be more edgy, darker, gloomier, more brooding, edgier, like every time, to the point where it just felt so stilted. It felt so fucking stilted and forced. It just totally took me out of the film. Not to mention, the whole film, we're meant to see Riddler's mission, you know, as uncovering lies made by the corrupt city politicians and public figures and the police, which I can buy that. That is not new to Gotham. Anybody that's seen any Gotham, any Batman comic book or animated film or animated show, like, corruption is there. Corruption is a part. It's built into the blood of Gotham. Gotham is a corrupt ass fucking city. So I buy that. I buy that goal of uncovering that, right? Excuse me, but I think what the film failed to do was really establish these characters that they were killing off, that the Riddler was murdering, before murdering them. Because as a result, they would murder some city council member, and they would murder the district attorney, and then they would murder the police commissioner, and we didn't fucking care. Because we don't know who the fuck they are. The police commissioner actually did appear on screen in one scene, and we didn't even know he was the police commissioner until like at the end of the scene, where they said, "Okay, commissioner," like it seemed like they just threw that in there just so that the audience can know that that's the commissioner, right? So as a result, like, we're sitting here like they're trying to make it feel so I don't know, so bad of a plot, but it just didn't feel that bad. It just felt like normal murder, I guess. I don't know. They didn't make me care about those characters, and it made it so that we didn't really understand what the Riddler's endgame was. Not to mention, there's the whole last hour of this film totally goes left. We're gonna get to that a little bit later, and that's what really muddies up the Riddler's like motive here. Because it's really unclear. I would buy that the Riddler just wanted justice and wanted to just uncover the conspiracies because the public needed to know. I did not get that from him. I did not get that as his goal, as his motivation. Like, it just did. Like, it was a really poorly thought out arc for this villain. You know, what makes a good, compelling villain, in my opinion, is a villain that the audience can understand. You may not agree with the villain's methods. You may not agree with the villain's goals, his end game, but you understand them. You know, you understand where he's coming from, that what I'm gendering, but what that villain desires, you understand why they desire it. That was never established for this character. That was never established. His entire plot, I guess, happened, like, I guess a conspiracy happened in Gotham, and I guess he had some vague connection with it because Bruce Wayne's father had some public initiative that didn't benefit him as a child because he was an orphan. And also Bruce Wayne's father indirectly got a reporter killed because that reporter reported something on Bruce Wayne's father's initiative. It was just like, it was a mess. It was just a mess. It was a fucking mess. Don't even get me started on after he gets caught. The Riddler gets caught and jailed 2 hours into this movie. This movie's 3 hours long. So the entire last hour of the movie, he's in jail. He's already out of the movie. And not only that, we find out when he gets caught, he's a 4chan incel. He's a 4chan incel with the plan to blow up 7 dams in the city, which, why the fuck does Gotham have 7 dams in the city preventing water from flooding the city? Why would you build a city there? Like, why would you do that? I don't know. It makes no sense. The whole motive is flimsy at best and murky as to why he's doing this. You know, it's just, it feels like the Riddler, it feels like Matt Reeves wrote this with the ideas, I want to make a Batman movie. Okay. What's a Batman villain that hasn't really gotten a lot of love lately? Oh, the Riddler. I want to make a Batman movie with the Riddler in it. And then he wrote a story around that. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. The Riddler was just thrown in. He was just thrown in. And I think that it was just a huge missed opportunity. All right, let's move on from the Riddler. Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. Guys, Robert Pattinson is an amazing actor. I have seen him do some fucking magic on screen. And I am convinced that his lacking performance in this film is entirely due to Matt Reeves' direction. You know, it's overly emo and brooding and moody to the point where I like actively dreaded seeing him. Anytime his face would come on screen, I would like roll my eyes because like I wanted to see any other character but him. And that's fucked up because the movie's called Batman. The movie's called, like, that should not be the case, guys. If y'all are familiar with Batman in the comments, him being dark and brooding is not new. That is definitely on brand for Batman. There's definitely a place for that. But here's the thing. Whenever like Batman and Bruce in the comics and in the animated films would have darkness to him, a very dark arc, it's because something informed that, you know? Like whether it's being betrayed by Ra's al Ghul or mourning the murder of Jason Todd after Jason Todd was brutally murdered by the Joker, you know? There's something that happened to him that informs that demeanor for him. And in this film, that's not established at all. The only thing we get is, okay, his parents were killed when he was a kid. And that's for every Batman. Every Batman has that origin story. It doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like this dark and brooding like exterior that he's exuding here. It doesn't feel earned at all. And it's certainly not established in the film. Certainly not established in the film. So I really can tell that Pattinson really tried his best here. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that the reason why this came off so one-dimensional is because Matt Reeves wanted it to be that way. I'm pretty fucking sure. He did a great job as Batman when he was in his Batman scenes, because like, how the fuck do you fuck up Batman? You can't. It's deep voice, check. Kick ass, check. Excuse me, be emotionless, check. You can't fuck up Batman, but it was his Bruce. It was his Bruce that really killed the character for me, because quite frankly, Bruce is... There's a place for a dark and brooding Bruce, not the way he did it. Not the way he did it. And honestly, the character even has a come to Jesus moment where he does turn around. He stops looking so gloomy, having such a gloomy outlook on life. The sad part, it came in way too fucking late in the movie. It should have happened way fucking sooner, and it happened in the 3rd hour. And by that point, we were already like begging for the movie to be done. So we'll get back to that. But that's Bruce. It was such a shame because Robert Pattinson's a great actor. The entire last hour of the film, ooh, money. As I mentioned, this movie is 3 fucking hours long. And the entire last hour of the movie was entirely unnecessary. The movie could have stopped at hour 2 and it would have been a complete movie. You know, at the start of the final hour, Riddler is caught. He's in jail. The big conspiracy mystery is solved. Even the big bad that was at the center of that mystery is dead. So that's we got closure on that. Selena Kyle gets closure on her daddy issues. All the dirty cops are arrested. All is well. They could have stopped. They could have stopped there, but no, they decided we need another layer to this. So now the Riddler has one more dumbass card up his sleeve after he gets caught for some reason. His whole plot was seemingly around exposing this conspiracy, which he did, but now he suddenly decides to destroy the city by blowing up all the dams in Gotham and flooding Gotham and killing as many as he can. And then once everybody that survives the initial flooding makes it to like the Gotham Square Garden, which, hello, that's hilarious. Gotham Square Garden, which is a big basketball arena. They all flock there. He's got his incel army because he's an incel social media influencer, guys. Did you know? He gets his incel army to like infiltrate the Gotham Square Garden and like with the desire to gun everybody down, to just kill everybody. Like, what? Like his whole thing was to like expose that conspiracy, and now he just wants to kill everybody. That doesn't make any sense. Like, why? I don't know, man. I don't know if there was like symbolism, like hidden symbolism that I just didn't get by this point. I don't fucking know, because by this point in the movie, I was begging for it to be done. I was looking at my watch. I was actively fighting the fucking urge to get up and walk out of the fucking theater, because I was so fucking, that whole arc was an hour. That whole arc was an hour. So they could have cut this out. If they would have cut this fucking hour out of the movie, I would have given this movie a 6 out of 10. This movie, this last hour fucked it for me. We'll get to my verdict a little bit later. Okay, I'll move on. All right, what could it have been? Let's be a little positive here. The cinematography was intensely beautiful. It was so beautiful, guys. You could tell that it was someone's job, someone very highly paid job, to absolutely nail the principal photography and the cinematography of this film, because visually it looked beautiful. It was extremely well thought out. Every single shot visually was extremely well thought out, you know? The sad thing is that I think they really could have used that effort into making maybe the cinematography uplift the story, because the story was so weak. The story and the characters and the plot was so weak and poorly executed that it ended up being a really bad movie that looked beautiful. And that's a shame, because it really did look beautiful. This was one of my favorite shots in the film, where the car accident happens and he's like slow motion walking toward the car upside down. It was just such a beautiful shot, and it's like wasted because the film was boring and the plot was bad and it was poorly written. It was just unfortunate. The plot, it was honestly weak even for a standalone. Like, you know, there's definitely, like I said, the whole conspiracy theory, the conspiracy runs deep trope is not new to Gotham. That is definitely a consistent story told in the world of Batman. It's just the whole motive was just unclear. It was unclear why the Riddler was doing this. It felt like it could have been any villain. They could have copied and pasted and stuck any villain in his place, and it wouldn't have changed much, because it was not overtly clear why this conspiracy meant so much to him as a character. You know, we did not understand. Remember, I told you, like, a good villain is one we can understand, and we didn't understand him, right? I think the writer was just trying to do much in general with the Riddler. I think he just stuck him in there. I really don't think that there was any real thought about why the Riddler himself should be carrying out this plot, and I think that's a shame. Give me a sec. Sorry, I just started like choking on my own spit. I think this movie would have been way better if they would have just cut the Riddler out. You know, in all honesty. It was just like inhaled my own spit. Wayne's coming to Jesus moment should have happened way sooner in the film. You know, like there's the moment at the end of the film when the flood is starting to take over Gotham Square Garden, and you see this shot right here where Bruce is shepherding the people out of the water. It was a really beautiful shot and a really beautiful moment, but the growth happened too late, because up to this point, no growth whatsoever from Bruce, and that's not good. You can't have the titular character not have any arc whatsoever throughout the whole course of the film, only to the end. You can't, because they had already lost us at this point. So it's just not good storytelling. Let's talk about the future. And honestly, where this movie fits into the DCEU, I don't think it does. I think this is a one-off. I don't even see this Batman fitting in with our other Justice League characters. I wouldn't be surprised if they wrote this film off as to being its own like contained universe in the multiverse. because I know they're about to do some multiverse shit with Flash. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that, because quite frankly, this Batman doesn't feel mature enough to be in the Justice League. I feel like if he tried to show up to the Justice League, they leave his ass behind. They'd be like, sit down, little boy. We'll come get you next time, you know? Like, given the tone, it feels like they were just going for a more gritty Batman, but it was a very young Batman to me, which is odd, because usually gritty Batman is older Batman, mature Batman. We've seen that before. The mature Batman, the mature older Batman is darker and gloomier, but he also has clout. He done some shit, and he's seen some shit, you know? I feel like this Batman's never even met Superman. You know, so it's just I don't think this one, I think this is a one-off. I think as far as like franchises go, if this becomes a franchise, and I think it is, I think it was just announced today that they're going to make a Batman too. I think this is probably not going to get folded into the DCEU. Let's talk about Joker. Joker had a brief plug in the film. There was like a 5-minute long scene, which already overly long, where they were trying to inject the Joker, and kind of, it felt a little bit half-assed, honestly. It felt like, hey, okay, we need to somehow bring the Joker in here. How do we do it? Okay, let's have him talk to the fucking Riddler in the Arkham Asylum through their cells for 5 minutes and say crazy shit. Like, it just felt like forced bait for a sequel. And it just, it was just cringy. I really don't envy Barry Keoghan. He's a really good actor too. Like, this cast was fucking stacked, guys. Like, they really had all the tools to make this a good movie, and it just failed them. It failed the actors. And I don't envy Barry Keoghan, because quite frankly, ever since Heath Ledger, it feels like any Joker that departs from that is not going to be well received, you know? And as a result, we just get cookie cutter copy paste. Like, you know, Jared Leto, love him or hate him, guys, his Joker was different. I applaud him for doing something different. I liked his Joker because it was different. It was a different take. He was not trying to emulate Heath Ledger. He was trying to be his own Joker, and he fucking did it. So props to Jared fucking Leto. This Joker felt like it was trying too hard. It felt like he was like just trying too hard to be cringy. And if anything, it felt like a teaser for the makeup more than anything. And the makeup is supposed to be like super scary looking, which okay, fine, but it didn't need to be a 5-minute scene. Funny enough, they actually released a cut scene between Batman and Joker that I think was a better one. I think that would have been a better plug for Joker, a better cameo. I really wish they put that in there instead of this scene. I think this scene could have been cut, and they could have put that in instead. It was basically while Bruce was trying to investigate the murders, he went to Joker saying, hey, there's a murder, I need you to look at this, and then the Joker was taunting him. I thought that would have been a way better like introduction to Joker. I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't know. The verdict. I wanted this movie to be good, guys. I know you guys heard me shit on this movie for the past 20 minutes, but believe me when I say I really wanted this movie to be good. I love superhero movies. And I love Batman. But I was so sorely disappointed, and it made me so damn sad. It saddens me to say I give this movie a 2 out of 10. I would have given it a 6 out of 10 if they would have cut the last hour off. But that last hour was kind of like the tip over the edge. This is a bad movie. The supporting actors' performances were not enough to save this totally misused villain, horribly directed Bruce Wayne, and extremely weak handling of the plot and writing. So saddens to say. I say go watch it anyway. Form your own opinion. This is just my opinion. But that is, we need to talk.